Die Welt drängt sich um dich, eine unaufhörliche Flut von Stimmen und Erwartungen. Stell dir vor, du stehst am Rand einer überfüllten Straße, wo die Luft summt vor dem Lärm von Schritten, dem Murmeln von Gesprächen, den scharfen Hupen ungeduldiger Autos. Gesichter verschwimmen, jedes auf seine eigene hastige Absicht fokussiert, und doch fühlst du dich völlig allein. Ein leises Ziehen breitet sich in deiner Brust aus, schwer und unausgesprochen, als ob dein Herz ein Geheimnis flüstert, das du lange ignoriert hast. Hast du jemals mitten in deinem Leben innegehalten und dich gefragt, warum es sich so leer anfühlt? Warum es trotz allem, was du erreicht hast, eine Leere gibt, die kein Erfolg füllen kann? Carl Jung sagte einmal, der Einzelne ist zu einer bloßen, abstrakten Zahl in der Statistik des Kollektivs geworden. Seine Worte stechen wie ein Messer und benennen die stille Wunde, die du trägst. Der Schmerz, ein Leben zu führen, das nicht wirklich deins ist. Du gehst durch deine Tage, nicht wahr, und tickst Kästchen auf einer Liste ab, die du nicht geschrieben hast. Die Gesellschaft reicht dir ein Drehbuch. Studiere hart, strebe nach der Beförderung, baue die perfekte Familie, kuratiere das perfekte Bild. Und du folgst ihm nicht, weil es das ist, was du willst, sondern weil es das ist, was erwartet wird. Das Kollektiv, diese riesige, unsichtbare Kraft aus gemeinsamen Überzeugungen und Normen, zieht dich wie eine Strömung mit sich. Und es ist einfacher, sich treiben zu lassen, als gegen es zu schwimmen. Aber tief in dir gibt es ein Rühren, eine unruhige Sehnsucht nach etwas mehr, etwas Wahrhaftigem. Hast du es gespürt? Dieser flüchtige Moment, in dem du einen Blick auf das wirfst, wer du sein könntest, nur um es unter dem Gewicht der Anforderungen der Welt entgleiten zu sehen? Das ist kein Zufall. Jung warnte, dass du, wenn du dich dem Kollektiv hingibst, den wertvollsten Teil von dir selbst verlierst, deine Individualität, der Funke, der dich zu dem macht, was du bist. Stell dir eine Frau namens Clara vor, die in ihrer makellosen Küche steht, umgeben von den Annehmlichkeiten eines Lebens, das andere beneiden. Sie ist 35, mit einem stabilen Job, einem liebevollen Ehemann und einem Zuhause, das vor Ordnung glänzt. Für die Welt hat sie Erfolg. Doch während sie aus dem Fenster schaut und sieht, wie der Regen Muster auf dem Glas hinterlässt, fühlt sie sich wie eine Fremde in ihrer eigenen Haut. Vor Jahren träumte Clara davon, Romane zu schreiben, Geschichten zu weben, die Herzen berühren würden. Aber das Kollektiv flüsterte, sei praktisch, sei verantwortungsbewusst, Träume bringen kein Geld. Also verstummte ihre Feder, sie verstaute ihre Geschichten und wählte einen Weg, der allen außer ihr gefiel. Jetzt, in der Stille ihrer Küche, fragt sie sich, wer bin ich wirklich? Ihre Frage hallt in dir wieder, nicht wahr? Wann hast du zuletzt auf die Stimme in dir gehört, die weiß, was du wirklich willst? Dieser Schmerz, diese Entfremdung ist nicht deine Schuld. Du wurdest in eine Welt geboren, die Konformität über Mut stellt, Gleichheit über Seele. Jeden Tag wirst du mit Botschaften bombardiert, die dir sagen, wie du denken, wie du aussehen, wie du leben sollst. Soziale Medien verstärken den Lärm und zeigen dir Leben, die du haben sollst, Meinungen, die du teilen sollst. Und im Lärm wird deine eigene Stimme immer schwächer. Jung verstand das. Er sah, wie das Kollektiv das Individuum verschlingen kann und ein Leben voller stiller Verzweiflung hinterlässt. Die Welt wird dich fragen, wer du bist, sagte er. Und wenn du es nicht weißt, wird dir die Welt sagen, wer du bist. Hast du es dir sagen lassen? Hast du es dir gefallen lassen, dass die Menge deinen Wert, deinen Weg, deine Wahrheit definiert? Heute werden wir uns dieser Wahrheit gemeinsam stellen. Wir werden erforschen, warum das Nachgeben an das Kollektiv deine Erfüllung raubt und wie das Zurückgewinnen deines einzigartigen Selbst der einzige Weg zu einem Leben ist, das sich ganz anfühlt. Jungs Warnung ist keine Verurteilung. Sie ist ein Aufruf zum Erwachen. Es ist eine Einladung, aus den Schatten der Menge zu treten und in das Licht dessen zu treten, was du sein sollst. Wie würde es sich anfühlen, ein Leben zu führen, das nur dir gehört, deine eigene Bedeutung zu wählen, dein eigenes Glück? Die Reise beginnt hier, mit dem Mut, der Leere zu begegnen und zu fragen, wer bin ich unter allem? Lass uns gemeinsam herausfinden. You stand in the heart of a bustling city, surrounded by a sea of faces, each one a blur of motion and purpose. The air hums with the rhythm of footsteps, the chatter of voices, the pulse of a world that never pauses. Yet, in this crowd, you feel invisible. A hollow ache gnaws at your chest, whispering a truth you cannot ignore. Something is missing. Have you ever felt like your life is not your own? Like you're running on a treadmill set by someone else's rules, chasing a destination you didn't choose? Carl Jung once warned, the individual has become a mere abstract number in the statistics of the collective. His words cut deep, don't they? They name the quiet pain of living a life that feels borrowed, a life shaped by forces you cannot see but cannot escape. Today, we will uncover why surrendering to the collective steals your fulfillment, and how reclaiming your unique self is the path to a life of meaning. This emptiness is not your fault. You live in a world that demands conformity at every turn. Social media feeds flood your mind with images of the perfect life, careers you should want, bodies you should have, opinions you should hold. Society hands you a script: get the degree, climb the ladder, buy the house, post the photos, and you follow it, don't you? Not because you want to, but because the weight of expectation is too heavy to resist. Picture Anna, a woman in her 30s who did everything right. She earned her degree, landed a prestigious job, married the man everyone admired. Yet, late at night when the world was quiet, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, haunted by a question. Is this all there is? Her heart ached for something more, something true, but she didn't know where to find it. Have you felt that ache too? That restless pull toward a life that feels like yours? You're not alone. Jung understood this struggle. He spoke of the collective unconscious, a vast psychic force that binds humanity together but can drown the individual soul. When you let it steer your life, you lose yourself. What happens when you let the crowd decide who you are? When did you last listen to the voice within you, the one that knows what you truly want? Here is the truth we will explore today. True fulfillment comes only when you embrace your unique individuality and resist the collective's pull, as Jung so urgently warned. He believed that losing yourself to the collective leads to a life of alienation, a life where your deepest desires are buried beneath the weight of others' expectations. Friedrich Nietzsche echoed this, saying, "The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe." This is not just philosophy, it's a call to awaken. Over the next moments, we will uncover 5 ways the collective steers you away from your true self and how you can reclaim your path to meaning. Are you ready to discover what's holding you back from living as the person you were meant to be? Let's begin with the collective unconscious, the invisible force that shapes your thoughts before you even think them. Jung described it as a psychic system of a collective nature, identical in all individuals. It's the myths, the archetypes, the shared beliefs that flow through humanity like an underground river. They tell you what success looks like, what love should be, what happiness means. But these are not your truths. They are the crowd's. Consider Maria, a young woman who always loved painting. As a child, she lost herself in colors, creating worlds on canvas that felt like home. But the world told her art was a hobby, not a life. So she studied finance, joined a corporate firm, and buried her brushes in a closet. Years later, at a company retreat, she saw a colleague sketch a portrait and felt a pang so sharp it brought tears to her eyes. That was her soul crying out, begging to be remembered. What dreams have you buried to fit in? How does the crowd's voice drown out your own? The collective unconscious is powerful because it feels like truth, but it's a truth built for the many, not for you. To live fully, you must question it. This loss of self begins with external pressures, but it's deepened by something more personal: the fear of standing alone. This fear is the heart of individuation. The process Jung described as becoming your true self, distinct from the collective. He wrote, "Individuation is the process by which individuals differentiate themselves from the collective." It sounds simple, but it's a path lined with shadows. To individuate is to step away from the crowd, to choose your own values, your own dreams, even when they clash with the world's expectations. And that choice terrifies you, doesn't it? Because to be different is to risk rejection. To be yourself is to face solitude. The human heart craves belonging, and the collective knows it. It offers safety, acceptance, a place to hide. But that safety comes at a cost: your soul. Imagine Daniel, a man in his 40s who once burned with passion for philosophy. In his youth, he spent nights reading Nietzsche, scribbling notes about the meaning of existence. He dreamed of a life devoted to ideas, to questions that stirred his spirit. But his family had other plans. "Philosophy won't pay the bills," they said. "Be practical." So Daniel became an accountant. He married, had children, bought a house. On paper, his life was perfect, but inside he was fading. Every day he felt the weight of a life that wasn't his. One evening at a quiet bookstore, he found Jung's Memories, Dreams, Reflections. He opened it and read, "The first half of life is devoted to forming a healthy ego, the second half to going inward and letting go of it." Those words were a mirror. They showed him a man who had traded his truth for approval. That night, Daniel began writing again, not for anyone else, but for himself. He started a blog, sharing his thoughts on life's mysteries. At first, he feared judgment. What would his colleagues think, his friends? But as he wrote, he felt something new: freedom. His words reached others, strangers who wrote to him saying, "You've given voice to what I feel." Daniel's courage to individuate didn't just save him, it lit a path for others. What would happen if you stopped fearing judgment? Who could you become if you chose yourself over the crowd? This fear of individuation is not weakness, it's human. The collective thrives on it, whispering that you're not enough, that you need its approval to matter. But Jung knew better. He saw individuation as a sacred journey, one that requires you to face the unknown within you. Think of a moment when you silenced your truth to fit in. Maybe you hid your love for poetry because your friends called it soft. Maybe you stayed in a job that drained you because it was what successful people do. Each time you chose the collective over yourself, you felt a piece of your spirit slip away. Didn't you? Now imagine the opposite. Imagine a life where you honor your uniqueness, where you let your heart lead. It's not easy. The world will push back. It will call you selfish, strange, impractical. But what's the alternative? A life half lived, a soul half known. Daniel's story shows us that the path to individuation begins with a single step: the courage to listen to yourself. He didn't abandon his responsibilities. He didn't need to. He simply made space for his truth, and that choice changed everything. What small step could you take today to honor who you are? What dream have you buried that's still waiting to be claimed? The fear of individuation holds you back, but it also points the way forward. It's a sign that something precious lies on the other side, your true self waiting to be met. This fear often leads us to hide behind masks, but those masks carry their own weight. One we'll explore next. Your heart carries a truth the collective cannot touch, a spark that belongs to you alone. This truth is the key to the fulfillment you've been seeking, the antidote to the emptiness that lingers in your soul. Carl Jung saw this clearly. He warned that true fulfillment comes only when you embrace your unique individuality, when you dare to resist the collective's pull and live as the person you were born to be. To surrender to the collective, to its rules, its expectations, its definitions of success, is to betray your own soul. Jung believed that the collective, with its vast and seductive power, drowns the individual psyche, leaving you alienated from your deepest desires. It's why, no matter how much you achieve, you still feel unmoored. Have you ever sensed this? That quiet rebellion inside you, urging you to break free? This is not a vague philosophy. It's a call to reclaim your life. Jung's warning is a beacon, illuminating the path to a life that feels whole. He saw the collective as a force that strips away your uniqueness, reducing you to a role, a number, a shadow of what you could be. But you are not meant to fade into the crowd. You are meant to shine, to carve a path that reflects your heart's deepest truth. Friedrich Nietzsche understood this struggle. He wrote, "The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe." His words echo Jung's, reminding you that fulfillment is not found in conformity, but in the courage to stand apart. What would it mean to live a life that's truly yours? To choose your own meaning, your own joy, over the world's demands? Today, we will walk this path together. We will explore 5 ways the collective steers you away from your true self. 5 barriers that keep you from the fulfillment you deserve. From the invisible pull of the collective unconscious to the masks you wear to survive, from the fears that hold you back to the shadows that haunt you, we will uncover the forces that dim your light. And with each step, we will discover how to break free, how to reclaim the individuality Jung urged you to protect. This journey is not about rejecting the world, it's about finding your place in it, not as a follower, but as yourself. Can you feel the possibility stirring within you? The promise of a life where your choices, your dreams, your soul are yours alone. This is the heart of Jung's message. You are not here to blend in. You are here to become whole, to integrate every part of yourself into a life that radiates meaning. The collective will always try to claim you, to shape you into someone it can control, but you have a choice. You can listen to the voice within, the one that knows who you are beneath the noise. What would happen if you trusted that voice? What could you become if you let it guide you? The answers lie ahead in the truths we will uncover together. Let's begin by facing the first barrier, the collective unconscious, and the ways it silently shapes your life. The journey to your true self begins with a force you cannot see, a current that flows beneath the surface of your life, shaping your choices before you even make them. Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious, a psychic system of a collective nature, identical in all individuals. It is the shared reservoir of archetypes, myths, and beliefs that binds humanity together, whispering what success should look like, what love should feel like, what happiness should mean. These are the stories the world tells you, the templates you're expected to follow. But they are not your stories. They are the collectives designed for the many, not for you. When you let them guide you, you lose something precious, the unique spark that makes you who you are. Have you ever felt like you're living someone else's life, like the path you're on was chosen for you, not by you? This force is powerful because it feels like truth. It's in the pressure to pursue a stable career, to marry by a certain age, to value wealth over passion. It's in the unspoken rules of your culture, your community, your social media feed. These are the archetypes of the collective unconscious, and they can drown out your own voice. Consider Maria, a woman in her early 30s who always loved painting. As a child, she'd spend hours with her brushes, creating worlds of color that felt like home. Her paintings were her heart, raw and alive, but the collective had other plans. Art won't pay the bills, her teachers said. Be practical. So Maria studied finance, joined a corporate firm, and packed her paints away. Years later, at a company retreat, she watched a colleague sketch a simple portrait. The sight hit her like a wave, a sharp pang of loss that brought tears to her eyes. That was her soul, crying out to be remembered. What dreams have you buried to fit the collective's mold? What part of you is waiting to be reclaimed? The collective unconscious doesn't just shape your actions, it shapes your identity. It tells you who you're supposed to be, and if you listen too long, you forget who you are. You start to measure your worth by external markers, your job title, your follower count, your bank account. But these are not you. They're roles the collective assigns, masks it expects you to wear. Jung warned that when the individual is swallowed by the collective, they become a mere abstract number, disconnected from their own soul. Have you felt this disconnection? That quiet ache when you realize the life you've built doesn't feel like yours? This is not failure, it's a sign. Your soul is calling you back to yourself, urging you to question the collective's truths. What would happen if you stopped following its script? What could you discover if you listened to your own heart? Maria's story is a mirror. After that retreat, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. One evening, she pulled her old paints from the closet, her hands trembling as she dipped a brush in color. The first stroke was tentative, but as she painted, something shifted. She felt alive again, as if a piece of her had come home. She started painting in her spare time, not for money or approval, but for herself. Her work wasn't perfect, but it was hers, and that was enough. Maria began to see the collective unconscious for what it was, a force that could guide her but not define her. She learned to question its demands, to carve out space for her own truth. What small step could you take to honor your uniqueness? What dream could you revive, even in a quiet corner of your life? The collective unconscious is a powerful current, but you are not powerless. This loss of self begins with external pressures, but it's deepened by something more personal. The fear of standing alone. To reclaim your true self, you must walk a path that scares you. Jung called this path individuation, the process by which individuals differentiate themselves from the collective. It's the journey of becoming who you are, distinct from the crowd's expectations. But this journey is not easy. It demands courage to stand apart, to choose your own values, your own dreams, even when they clash with the world's demands. Why is it so hard? Because to individuate is to risk rejection, judgment, even solitude. The collective offers safety, acceptance, a place to belong. But that safety comes at a cost, your soul. Have you ever silenced your truth to fit in? What did it feel like to hide who you are? This fear is human. The need to belong is woven into your being, and the collective knows it. It whispers that you're not enough on your own, that you need its approval to matter. But Jung saw individuation as a sacred act, a rebellion against this lie. To individuate is to face the fear of being different and choose yourself anyway. Think of Daniel, a man in his 40s who loved philosophy. In his youth, he devoured Nietzsche and Kierkegaard, dreaming of a life spent wrestling with life's big questions. But his family urged him toward stability. Philosophy won't feed you, they said. So Daniel became an accountant, married, had children. On paper, he was successful. Inside, he was fading. One day, at a bookstore, he found Jung's Memories, Dreams, Reflections. He read, "The first half of life is devoted to forming a healthy ego, the second half to going inward and letting go of it." Those words broke him open. He began writing essays in secret, sharing them online. At first, he feared judgment. What would his colleagues think? His friends? But as he wrote, he felt free. His words reached others, strangers who said, "You've given voice to my heart." What would happen if you stopped fearing judgment? Who could you become if you embraced your true self? Daniel's courage shows us that individuation doesn't mean abandoning your life. It means making space for your truth. He didn't quit his job or leave his family. He simply honored the part of himself he'd buried. Each step toward individuation is a victory, no matter how small. The fear of standing alone is real, but it's also a guide. It points to the parts of you that matter most, the parts the collective wants to suppress. What small act of courage could you take today? What truth have you hidden that's ready to be seen? The collective thrives on your fear, but you are stronger than you know. This fear often leads you to hide behind masks, and those masks carry their own weight, as we'll see next. You wear a mask to survive the collective's gaze. Jung called it the persona, a compromise between individual and society, a mask behind which the individual hides. It's the face you show the world, the professional, the parent, the friend, crafted to fit in, to be accepted. But when you cling too tightly to this mask, you lose touch with the self beneath it. The persona becomes a prison, trapping you in a life that's not yours. Have you ever smiled through a moment when your heart was breaking? What did it cost you to hide your truth? The persona is necessary. You need it to navigate society. But when it defines you, it disconnects you from your soul. You start living for others, shaping yourself to meet their expectations. Consider Laura, a woman in her late 30s known as the perfect mother. To her friends, she was cheerful, organized, always in control. But inside, she was crumbling. Laura loved poetry, but her persona left no room for it. She buried her notebooks, convinced that mothers don't have time for dreams. One day, her daughter found an old poem and begged Laura to read it. As she read, her voice trembled and she realized how much she'd hidden. That moment was a turning point. Laura began journaling again, carving out time for her words. Her poetry wasn't for fame, it was for her. What mask do you wear to please others? What lies beneath it, waiting to be seen? The persona thrives because the collective rewards it. You're praised for playing your role well, for being what others expect. But every time you prioritize the mask over your truth, you pay a price. You feel hollow, fragmented, as if you're acting in a play. You didn't write. Jung warned that over-identifying with the persona creates a false self, a version of you that's acceptable but not authentic. Have you felt this fracture? That sense that you're not living as you? The way out is to honor the self beneath. The mask, even in small ways. Laura's poetry was her bridge back to herself. What could be yours? What small act could help you peel back the mask? The persona hides your truth, but the collective's shadow amplifies your inner conflicts. As we'll explore next, the collective has a dark side, a shadow it doesn't want you to see. Jung described the shadow as the repressed, unacknowledged parts of the psyche, and the collective shadow is society's hidden flaws: greed, envy, aggression, fear. These forces project onto you, creating inner turmoil when you try to break free. Fyodor Dostoevsky wrote, "Man is a mystery. It needs to be unraveled. And if you spend your whole life unraveling it, don't say that you've wasted time." The collective shadow is part of this mystery, and it fuels your conflict when you dare to be yourself. Have you ever felt guilty for wanting something different? What made you feel unworthy of your own dreams? The collective shadow works by making you feel ashamed for not fitting in. It tells you that nonconformity is selfish, that your uniqueness is a flaw. This shame can paralyze you, keeping you tethered to the collective's demands. Think of Alex, a man in his 20s, raised in a materialistic suburb. Everyone around him chased wealth, bigger houses, fancier cars, but Alex felt suffocated. He wanted a simpler life, filled with books and quiet mornings. When he sold his car and moved to a small cabin, his friends mocked him. "You're wasting your potential," they said. But in that cabin, Alex found peace. He started a blog about minimalism, and his words touched thousands. The collective shadow tried to shame him, but he chose his truth. What societal flaws do you carry within you? How could you free yourself from their weight? This shadow thrives on projection. The collective denies its own darkness, its obsession with status, its fear of difference, and projects it onto you. You feel judged, inadequate, as if your desires are wrong. But this is not your burden. It's the collective's. Jung believed that facing the shadow, both personal and collective, is essential to growth. Alex faced it by rejecting the materialism that didn't serve him. He didn't need the collective's approval. He needed his own. What expectations make you feel small? What would it feel like to let them go? The collective shadow creates conflict, but it also points to freedom. By seeing it for what it is, you can begin to release its hold. This release leads to the final step, the path to wholeness. The collective pulls you apart, but you were born to be whole. Jung described wholeness as the integration of the contraries, the act of embracing all parts of yourself, light and shadow, strength and weakness. This is the heart of fulfillment, the antidote to the collective's control. To be whole is to accept your uniqueness, to live authentically no matter what the world says. Jung wrote, "Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries." What parts of yourself have you rejected? What would it mean to welcome them home? Wholeness requires courage to face the parts of you the collective deems unacceptable. Your sensitivity, your quirks, your unconventional dreams. These are not flaws, they are your strength. Consider Sarah, a woman who always felt too sensitive. She cried easily, felt deeply, and was told to toughen up. But when she volunteered at a crisis hotline, her sensitivity became her gift. She listened with a compassion that changed lives. By embracing her flaw, Sarah found purpose. She wasn't too much. She was enough. What have you been told is too much about you? How could it be your power? The collective wants you to fragment yourself, to suppress what doesn't fit. But wholeness is the opposite. It's the act of saying, "This is who I am," and meaning it. It's not about perfection, it's about truth. Sarah didn't become someone new. She became herself, fully and unapologetically. This is what Jung meant by wholeness, a life where every part of you has a place. The path is not easy. The collective will push back, call you selfish, strange, impractical. But what's the alternative? A life half-lived, a soul half-known. What would your life look like if you embraced every piece of yourself? What could you create? Who could you become if you lived as you? Wholeness is your birthright, and it's waiting for you to claim it. This path brings us to the deepest truth of Jung's warning, the revelation that will set you free. You felt the weight of the collective, haven't you? Its relentless pull, urging you to conform, to shrink, to silence the voice that makes you unique. But here in this moment, a deeper truth emerges, one that Carl Jung saw with piercing clarity. Fulfillment is not found in blending into the crowd, but in daring to live as your true, integrated self. This is the heart of his warning, the revelation that ties together every step of our journey. To be fulfilled is to embrace every part of you, your light, your shadow, your dreams, your fears, and to choose a life that reflects your soul, no matter what the world demands. Jung said, "The world will ask you who you are, and if you don't know, the world will tell you." These words are not just a caution, they're a call to awaken, to claim the life you were born to live. What would it feel like to answer that call? To stand fully in your truth, unapologetically you. Imagine Eleanor, a woman in her 50s, who spent decades living for others. As a young girl, she loved to write, filling notebooks with stories of faraway places and brave hearts. But the collective had other plans. Her parents urged her to be practical. Her husband needed a supportive wife. Her children needed a devoted mother. So Elena set her pen aside, burying her dreams under layers of duty. She became a teacher, a wife, a mother. Roles she played with love, but at the cost of herself. For years, she felt a quiet ache, a sense that something was missing. One autumn evening, cleaning out a closet, she found an old journal, its pages yellowed but alive with her youthful words. As she read, tears fell. Those stories were her soul, still waiting. At first, she dismissed them. It's too late, she thought. I'm too old to start again. But something stirred, a spark that refused to die. Elena enrolled in a writing class, her hands trembling as she signed up. She began to write again, not for approval, but for herself. One story became many, and soon she was sharing them with her class. When she read her tale of a woman rediscovering her courage, her classmates wept. Elena realized she wasn't just writing, she was living. She booked a solo trip to a small village in Italy, where she sat in a sunlit cafe, pen in hand, crafting a novel that felt like home. For the first time, she felt whole, not because she had rejected her roles, but because she had integrated them with her truth. What would your life look like if you lived only for yourself? What could you create if you let your soul lead? Elena's story is the climax of Jung's vision. The collective will always try to define you, to mold you into someone it can control. It will tell you that your dreams are impractical, that your uniqueness is a burden. But Jung knew better. He saw that fulfillment comes from individuation, from wholeness, from daring to be you in a world that demands otherwise. Every barrier we've explored, the collective unconscious, the fear of standing alone, the mask of the persona, the weight of the collective shadow, points to this truth. You are not here to conform. You are here to shine, to weave a life that's as singular as your soul. Elena didn't need to abandon her family or her past. She needed to embrace her dreams, to integrate them with her life, to say, "This is who I am." And in doing so, she found not just fulfillment but joy. Can you feel that possibility within you? The freedom of living as your true self, no matter what the world says. This is the liberation Jung promised. It's not an easy path. The collective will push back with its judgments, its expectations, its noise. But every step you take toward yourself is a victory. Every moment you choose your truth over the crowds is a reclaiming of your soul. What legacy would you leave by being fully you? What impact could you have if you lived from your heart? The collective may ask you who you are, but you have the power to answer. You are not a number, not a role, not a shadow. You are a light, unique and irreplaceable. This truth is your freedom, your fulfillment, your home. Let it guide you forward into a life that's yours alone. You are not a shadow of the collective. You are a light, singular and radiant, meant to illuminate the world in a way only you can. Carl Jung's warning echoes in your heart. True fulfillment lies not in conforming to the crowd, but in embracing the unique soul you carry. This journey we've taken, through the collective's pull, the fear of standing alone, the masks you wear, the shadows you face, has led you to a simple, profound truth. You were born to be whole, to live a life that is yours alone. Have you felt this truth stirring within you? The quiet certainty that your life can be more than what the world demands. This is your moment. The collective will always try to claim you, to shape you into someone it can control. But you are stronger than its whispers. By choosing your individuality, you do more than find fulfillment. You become a beacon for others. Your courage to live authentically, to honor your dreams, your flaws, your truth, inspires those around you to do the same. Imagine a world where each person dares to be themselves, where the collective's noise fades before the harmony of individual souls. That world begins with you. Arthur Schopenhauer once said, "All truth passes through 3 stages: ridicule, opposition, and acceptance." Your path to yourself may face ridicule, it may face opposition, but in time it will lead to acceptance of who you are, of the life you were meant to live. What could you inspire if you lived as your true self? What ripples could your courage create? Your soul is not a burden, it's a gift. It carries dreams the collective cannot imagine, strengths it cannot measure, a purpose it cannot define. Jung believed that to live fully is to answer the call of your individuality, to weave every part of you into a life that feels like home. You don't need to change the world. You need only to change yourself, to choose yourself, to trust the voice that knows who you are. What would it feel like to live that way? To wake each day knowing you are enough, just as you are? Your fulfillment is not a destination. It's a journey, one that begins with a single step toward yourself. Your soul is waiting, calling you home. Will you answer its call?